I'll start with my introductions just to get them out of the way, because we're all here to listen to Debbie and her amazing story. I'm so excited about this because there's so many aspects to this that I think will resonate with a lot of people. So I'm Tom. I'm one of the sales team, one of the business development managers. I was Debbie's initial point of contact as she reached out to Thrive all those months ago. I'm here just as I guess the compare without the humour. But yeah, I'll let Debbie introduce herself.
I hope you're not expecting me to have the humour there, Tom. So I'm Debbie, and I'm a development partner in talent and development team at Ted Baker. I have actually worked for Ted Baker for 16 years this month. Quite a journey. I spent the majority of that in retail, in store management, and then moved into L&D about 5 years ago now. Yeah, so that's me.
Awesome. Well, I guess it makes sense to initially talk about, I guess, a position for the guys who maybe aren't familiar as who Ted Baker are. I'm sure they are, but for their benefit, it might be worth just Debbie just talking a little bit about who Ted Baker are.
Yeah, so if there is anyone, which I'm quite sure there isn't, like you say, Tom, Ted Baker established in 1988. First store was in Glasgow, and we actually opened in a tiny shop in Glasgow with an offering of 4 menswear shirts, and that was it. So obviously, move on to 2021, we are a global lifestyle brand, very well known for our distinctive prints and colours and all the little quirky details that you get from anything Ted Baker. We like to call that the gleaming detail. But yeah, that was where we started. Ted Baker's purpose, and I really like this, is to love a life less ordinary and to create and celebrate the unexpected in every day.
Love that. Amazing. And then I guess just a little bit of context in terms of who Ted Baker are as an organisation. I'll be honest, I didn't realise that Ted Baker are a global business when we first started speaking, so it was an eye opener for me.
Yeah, so we've got a huge retail portfolio throughout the globe, over 500 stores and concessions worldwide. So from North America, UK, throughout Europe, Germany, France, Spain, Portugal, Netherlands, Belgium. We've got stores in South Africa, we've got stores in Australia, so it really is across the globe. And then obviously our e-com business is very widespread with that as well, and a really strong wholesale and license presence across the globe as well.
Awesome. So I guess, again, for a bit of context for the guys that are on this, have joined the webinar, it'd be really good to set the scene, I suppose, as to where Ted Baker were, because again, I think this is quite fascinating in terms of where you've come from, not just in the context of the last 12 months and how things have changed, but also what the vision was and how you were looking to kind of innovate at Ted as well.
Yeah, I mean, for us, there's been a huge amount of change in the last couple of years. So if I sort of cast my mind back to 2019 and tell you a bit about sort of where we were then and maybe some of the things that we were doing as a learning and development function, and also some of the challenges that we had then and what we were starting to think about along with those challenges. So as you can see on the slide here, these are some of our retail tools. One of them being Ted School of Excellence, which I think anyone who's ever worked for Ted Baker in the life of Ted will remember Ted School of Excellence. We also have a retail manager's induction tool called Doing the Knowledge. I did bring some of the books actually, so this is what the manager would get on their first day in retail, and a team member would get that book in their first day in retail. So the beauty of these, where they're so beautifully designed, everything that's in them that's got Ted's DNA through and through, all the quirky little stories, all the messages and personality. So it's a really special thing, and a big part of our culture in TED as well. With those tools, it took a lot of one-to-one coaching with the manager. And alongside those, we actually ran skills workshops in our head office departments, which were face-to-face, half-day workshops. We had off-site training events. These were called TED Challenges. There's quite a number of them, but the most famous ones are TED Challenges. And it's if you've been on one, you can't talk about it after. It's all very secret.
Oh,
but
wow.
It's a 4-day training event, and there's actually 5 of them, and they really are something that's an experience. But yeah, it's 4 days off-site, and that was for retail team members and head office team members, and around the globe as well, that we ran those. And also year-long development programs as well. We have a program called Talented, where people that were ready for the next step would go on a year-long program that involved having a mentor, etc. So all the things that we really had were very much face-to-face, actual printed tools. But the problems with those is, how widespread. There's only so many people that you can take onto a 4-day off-site event. And actually, as beautiful as the tools are, if something changes in the business a week later, the tools are out of date. So yeah, there was challenges that we'd started to think about at this point, and one of the things was looking at a digital learning solution. And that's
So it sounds like quite a traditional approach to L&D and training then, in terms of the way that things were managed only a couple of years ago.
Yeah, I mean, it actually seems a bit like a lifetime ago now, but really, 2019 was only a couple of years ago. And we have some really great things, but it had its flaws,
Sure.
and they just wasn't adaptable enough for us. So yeah, we started the journey at this point to look at what options we had.
Yeah, I guess it's one of those things that it's probably manageable for a national company with a few stores dotted around the UK, but when you actually consider TED as a global organization, the feasibility of scaling that up is perhaps a challenge.
Yeah, absolutely. And you can't reach everybody then. I mean, we're doing so many things online now. We're doing so many workshops, and anyone can tap in. But say, for example, the classroom skills workshops, that was at head office at ugly brown building in London. So retail team members couldn't come to that. Also, team members, out in other territories couldn't make it for that. So yeah, there was definite things that we have to put some change into.
For sure, and I think that disconnect between head office and the retail functions is something that we're going to talk about in a little bit more detail, I imagine, later on during this presentation as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I think I'm talking there about the beautiful workbooks that we had, and the real culture and history that was in retail. A slightly different approach to what we have in our head office. So it's really having that business culture rather than what's the culture at head office and what's the culture in retail.
For sure. And then I guess in terms of that journey, then there was a kind of a 2020 element to that as well.
So even before 2020, so that sort of towards the end of 2019, TED was going through a huge amount of change, and actually a transformation of the business. And that transformation is called TED's growth formula. And we started in 2019, and it's something that we're still developing now. And some of the key things of that was how agile and effective we are, and how adaptable we are as a business. Looking at being smarter in terms of being more digital, looking at different solutions across the business, from learning to e-com, and what data we had as well. So as a function, we had quite manual data, Excel spreadsheets that I never want to see again. But yeah, being agile and effective, we've actually gone through a whole new brand refresh as well, which I'm sure anyone that's looked at Ted Baker's marketing or on the website recently has had a real different feel from what Ted Baker's offering. And also looking at sustainability, we've got an amazing ethics and sustainability team at Ted Baker that we work really closely with. And actually, some of the things that they've put in place at TED to make us a more sustainable fashion brand, we had to look at ourselves from a learning function and see, are we in line with that as well? So, for example, printing out, as again, say beautiful, because I had a lot to do with making these a few years ago. Looking at how much it costs to print these lovely workbooks, and I actually worked out that 80 workbooks equals a tree, and in 5 years it was 75 trees.
Wow.
5 years of printing workbooks.
I know that's a stat that Cassie is all over.
Yeah. We actually wanted to launch the platform with this element as well, the sustainability, because it's something that I was really passionate about. Because not only did we have these workbooks, we actually, to be a little more agile at the time, we had tools that were on our shared drive that went alongside the programs that you could print off and store. But again, right, printing off sheets of A4 in a store computer isn't really in line with the move towards being one of big sustainable fashion brands. So that's definitely something that was on our radar as well.
Awesome. And then I guess following on from that, then we get into I know there's a few words that we're not going to mention as part of this or talk about because everyone's going to be sick to the back teeth, but I guess 2020 as a year has certainly expedited things, changed things.
Yeah, I mean, we were going through a huge amount of change anyway, but definitely 2020, I would just say it is the catalyst year. There's 3 words that we're not going to say, and that's the C word, the U word, or the P word. And if anyone can get in there first with those 3 words, if they know what they are, get them in the chat. And it was really a catalyst because we had, retail was closing, teams were going on furlough. And I've just seen someone pop up with one of the words. Has anyone got all 3 words yet?
I was racking my, when you mentioned this last week, I still can't get you. I've spent countless nights. I can't get the U for love nor money. So
the U was actually voted the biggest word by the Oxford English Dictionary of 2020.
So I've been living under a rock then.
And it's not upskilling. Unprecedented. Oh, someone nearly made me say that. I didn't say the full thing.
You didn't. There's no evidence.
We couldn't facilitate any face-to-face training, obviously. Head office teams, where we went into skeleton team, a lot of the teams were working, or the majority of them were working remotely as well from home. The tools that we had, as I said, there were so many changes in the business, so many new ways of working that we'd put in as part of TED's growth formula, that the tools that we had were out of date and needed a lot of work putting into them. We also had difficulties with communicating information to dispersed teams as well. We've got teams around the globe, different time zones, but we've also had the issue of how we really connect our retail team as well. Our head office team's got access to all the business tools, but our retail teams, we were having to send information out to personal email addresses, you know, and sending emails are just, you know, there's no engagement, we're not getting any feedback, we don't know if people are receiving things. And then you've also got the element of how we keep teams connected to TED. You know, how do we keep them informed about what's going on in the business, not just important information about those things that's all going on in 2020, but how do we give them access to the resources? So we spent time doing a lot of work with our office tools, our business tools, and trying to mold and bend them. So we created sites like our wellbeing hub and you know, information about product launches, but we were just pushing information, so we couldn't get, there was nothing to engage with the teams. So you can't keep connected when it's kind of one way.
No, for sure.
Yeah.
So I guess, and then so technology has ultimately formed part of that kind of that change, isn't it, as a tool to help address those challenges?
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. We were doing the best we can, but it was very evident we had to speed up the process. And what we needed to do was we needed to find a digital solution. One, and these were kind of our main objectives when we started doing the research, was to create one place for learning, but not just learning, communications in Ted Baker. And a lot of that is actually one of the same. We had to find a solution that reflected Ted's personality as well. You know, there's so many solutions out there that are, you know, sort of very grey and don't really have much personality, but that was an essential thing for us as well. And obviously with Ted's purpose being create and celebrate the unexpected, we needed that from a solution as well. And to encourage personal development and directed learning. So where we had managers having to do a lot of face-to-face, sitting down with the workbooks and coaching through things, we wanted to get the right consistent information out to people, but also empower people to, you know, spend time on their own learning and self-development. And also to give people an opportunity to join the conversation as well. We love to get feedback from our teams. We love to get the teams involved, and you know, in order to you know, the personality of Ted Baker is bring your own self to work, be yourself, bring your ideas forward. So we needed a solution that supported us with that as well.
And I think it's fair to say, Debbie, that your market appraisal was quite robust. I think you've, maybe you can talk about that. But I know it's been a bit of a journey in terms of that, you know, market exploration and finding the right solution.
Yeah, I mean, absolutely. It was the first time that I'd done anything like this before, but it was Ted's first digital learning solution. So, you know, we had to get it right.
Yeah, for
sure. And also, I mean, to be honest, we say it's the first piece of global HR tech that we put in. But actually, when we first started thinking about this, we were going to launch to UK and North America. Obviously, because we've had with the challenge of providing languages and some of the data challenges we had. But part of Ted's growth formula is being a part of Team Ted, and everybody's a part of Team Ted. So we couldn't possibly put in a solution for communications that didn't involve everybody. So obviously it ended up being a global solution. And yeah, I definitely went on every webinar, had every demo, you know, spent time, a long amount of time researching, should I say.
Sure.
But
I think the personality point is actually quite a nice one. I think it's so easy to think of tech to be quite sterile and quite, I don't know, like you say, grey, vanilla. And so for something like a piece of technology to replicate or resonate with a brand, you know, that's a really nice, and I'm going to give Thrive a pat on the back here, but that's a really nice testament to Thrive and that alignment with that personality piece as well.
Yeah, and actually, obviously, from looking at the platform and from the demos that you took me through, Tom, as well, it is, it's that user generated content element of it, so we can get people involved. But be bold, be brave. That as well just really connected with us, and actually personality of everyone that I've worked with in Thrive as well really kind of reflect our values. So yeah, from I think our first conversation was October 2020, and from then, it did start to feel like a partnership. It started to feel like a fit, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. I think that partnership piece as well is always key.
Yeah.
So I guess that's a really nice segue into, we've talked about the challenges, we've talked about where you wanted to get to. It's now, I guess, an opportunity to actually, show the fruits of your labor, really.
Yeah.
But just I guess for a bit of context for the guys who are on this webinar who maybe aren't familiar with Thrive, I thought it was worth me just giving a little bit of positioning in terms of how Thrive as a product works, just to kind of help frame the conversation a little bit as we go into the next section. So I'm just going to jump to your homepage here. So again, for those of you on the webinar that aren't familiar with Thrive as a platform, we are the fastest growing learning experience platform in the market. We're also the only platform at LXP that combines that consumer grade user experience that people expect with all of the LMS functionality that you would hope to have from a platform. So when you talk about, compliance reporting, event management, all of that sort of stuff. But what I'm showing you is Thrive at TED. So that's the name that Debbie and her team came up with. This is the homepage that a learner will see. Now, the homepage is all about personalization. It's all about driving that personalized learning experience. That personalization happens in three ways. The first is around interests. So when you first log into the platform, you're asked, what are you interested in learning more about, which ultimately influences what you might see. Then you've got the, I guess, typical traditional functionality around kind of audience management. So who are you? What's your job role? Where do you sit within the organization? That's also going to influence what you see as well. And then finally, you have the, I guess, the exciting piece. I say exciting, that implies that the rest of it isn't. The most exciting element of the platform, which is the behavioral learning. So based on, what you're looking at, liking, commenting, sharing, all of that sort of stuff, the platform will make recommendations of other pieces of content you might like to check out. Very similar to a Spotify, YouTube, Pinterest, Netflix, etc., etc. So that's the way in which content is personalized. But then what you have is this homepage here where we have a number of what we call blocks. And these are around enable you to be much more targeted with the content that you present out to your learners. One of the things that Debbie, and I didn't really mention this at the time, but Debbie, when we had our call about this last week, she talked about Thrive as a business platform, so rather than a learning platform. And I think that really stuck with me, because when you look at the blocks on this homepage, it's not just learning and development or the L&D team that are pushing out content here. It's a real mix of different business units owning certain aspects. So, you've got latest news here, or have you heard? So news at TED. So this is owned by the comms team. Then you've got a section here dedicated to health, wealth, and inner self. So this is where the wellbeing team take a bit of ownership. And then you've got opportunities at TED. So the recruitment and talent team. So it's a real mix of different business units owning one platform, rather than the mindset being that Thrive is a learning platform. I think it's, and again, we'll talk about the way in which you've launched, Debbie, but I think it's fair to say that it's been comms first and learning is something that's going to come a little bit later. But that's, like I say, that was my very whistle-stop tour of Thrive as a concept and a homepage. Like I say, it's all about delivering a personalized learning experience. But I will jump back now to Debbie to talk about the launch. And for the benefit of you guys, I will be jumping a little bit back and forth as well to the platform to kind of showcase some examples of what we're talking about here. But in terms of the launch, Debbie, I think it's fair to say that retail and TED had a compelling event that you were working towards. There was quite a hard and fast date that was key for you guys.
Yeah, we actually launched on April 7th, which was 3 weeks earlier than what we were planning to launch initially. And that was just to adapt in what was going on in the business. So at that point on the 7th of April, we had the biggest proportion of our retail estate was closed. So UK retail wasn't opening until the following week. We still had Ireland closed, different places across Europe. So that was one thing that we really wanted to do. We wanted to start to get the teams thinking about what's been going on in TED, and sharing stories about coming back to work, and putting some of that well-being information out there. But we also were launching our global values as well. So that was a really, I'm not quite sure how we would have done it to this success that we had if we didn't have Thrive in place, because obviously our values is very much be part of Team TED. And if you can't share that information with people, and then you can't get people involved in that conversation, then it kind of defeats the point. And that's the whole reason why we went 3 weeks early when we launched the values. We also launched with our How to Thrive. So we produced how-to videos on how to do each element on the platform, and we did that in 5 languages. So from day one, we could get everyone on the platform knowing exactly what they were doing and starting to post and create their own content.
Awesome. And this is the How to Thrive pathway here.
Yeah.
One of the things that I was going to ask you about, Debbie, was around those specific values. So TED's values, because I was having a little bit of an explore. Excuse the pun. I told you I was bad at jokes. I was having a little bit of an explore of TED's values. And one of the things that really struck me was the pieces of content that are in here aren't necessarily pieces of content created by TED, right? There's a mixture of just assets that are available on the web. And I guess where you're looking at these values, like you say, they trickle down, don't they? If you're going to implement them in your everyday life, they're really easy to implement when you get to work.
Yeah, absolutely. And it was a real mix of different types of content that we put in for the Values Festival, and that was led by our internal comms team, who actually on the platform are called News at TED. That's our internal comms. Yeah. But yeah, we filmed some amazing videos with our exec team in UK, North America, across the globe, where there was different conversations with people that worked in head office, directors, having that discussion about what that particular value meant to them, which was amazing to get involved in, but also to put a comment on there and really kind of appreciate them for putting that out there. But then we've got Get Abstract on the platform as well that we use so much, and we used it a lot around the Values Festival, and there's Pink and some of the off-the-shelf pieces as well. But actually, the user-generated content that we got around the values was amazing, and we actually started to use some functionality as well that we probably didn't expect to use so early on, because we were launching with comms. We weren't putting any compliance out or anything like that when we launched. It was all part of the plan, but we wanted to get people on, get people engaged first of all.
For sure.
So yeah, a couple of things that's coming up is TED's events that when we first were thinking about the platform, we were maybe thinking about them as actual workshops, events, but it was so easy to drop some different kinds of events in, and just the way we've been using things like questions as well. This is just a couple of highlights for me from the platform in the first, so it's 7 weeks now since we launched. And one of the things was the event. So around our values campaign, we launched an art class, a famous artist that came in and done an online art class, and there's people from all over the globe that would be able to tune into that. we did, I think it was about 4 different sessions of yoga in our Kind Week. Being kind to yourself, so people could drop into those sessions, which were amazing. And part of our mental health awareness week, the group of mental health first aiders that we've got in TED, we were actually coming up with some different ideas, and we launched this time for tea and a natter.
Yeah, I love this.
And we got a few people in at first, and it just really came round to, how many people, even in that group, there was someone in that group, I know what department she works in, I know what job she does in TED, but I could see behind her there was a little child, sort of 10, and I thought, I've actually no idea, whether you've got children or who you actually are. So we set this up for, if you've got half an hour to just pop in, you just go on there and sign up, and you can come, bring your cup of tea, bring your biscuits, and have a natter. And the only thing is, you can't talk about anything to do with work. And they were so good, and we had such a good lot of feedback about it. I mean, you can see all the sort of comments from some of the people that came on them. We're actually running them now as a monthly global event. So on the session on the 11th of June, I think from memory, we've got someone from South Africa on there. We've got someone from Dallas. We've got someone from Vegas. We've got a couple of people from the Netherlands, someone from Glasgow, someone from head office. There's a real mix of people, and actually people that we share this, who we work for, but we wouldn't necessarily speak to them unless it's to do with our role, and also we wouldn't get to speak to them on a personal level.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, one of the last ones we had, our chief people officer dropped into one. So for people, that's amazing to get to chat and get to know him a little better. And our finance director popped into another one. So it's definitely something that's been a highlight on the platform.
Yeah, absolutely. I think it's also in such contrast to, I guess, what would have been for me, the kind of expected launch, right, as well. It would have been so easy to just launch with the returning to work, returning to store, here's your compliance training. And that mindset or that engagement with the platform would have been completely different to what we're now seeing in terms of TED and the engagement with this platform. Like you say, it's the compliance stuff will come later, but the mindset now in terms of what Thrive is as a platform for TED is completely different.
Absolutely. And we've launched with the engagement, and you'll be able to see from the numbers in a minute, there's no way we'd have got the engagement that we did if we'd have, just put a bit of training and compliance on there. Yeah. It just wouldn't have worked. But actually, as a team, and as I said, a lot of our things, a lot of the tools that we're using, we're recreating, we're reinventing, and it's given us a little bit of time to do that. Whilst we're gauging actually what people want and what works for the teams as well on the platform.
For sure. And I think the next section or the next slide, which looks at those questions that you mentioned, I think you said this last week, that actually the expectation of how this feature would work actually really hasn't played out as you would have thought, but it's been amazing. The engagement with the types of questions and what's been posted on the platform is incredible.
Yeah, we when I heard about this, the questions, I automatically kind of had it in my head that we would launch with a question on how to do something. So it'd be very sort of transactional in how do you work the scanner, and someone who knew would pop along and say this is how they do it, or you would post a video, as you said, which is a great idea. But actually, it's not how it's worked at all. When we launched the platform on the 7th, we put 2 questions on there. What do you think of the new collection? And how are you feeling about returning to stores? And we got such good engagement from people sharing their experience. Some people were nervous. Some people were really excited. you could see people giving advice to other people, and that kind of engagement is better than any article or bit of nice fancy PDF that we could ever put out there. So it's worked so well. And part of the values campaign, the values festival as well, someone put, what is the most courageous thing that you've ever done, as a question, because courage is one of our values. And as you go through the stories that are on here, you know, some really personal things about moving to different countries, actually about getting divorced, about like major big life things they're sharing. And Erin, who actually posted this question, has gone through and responded to every single reply that's on there. So I just think, you know, yeah, we've got to dot the I's and cross the T's, but this stuff is really invaluable for us being part of Team TED.
Absolutely. Yeah, I think it's amazing. Like I say, whenever we talk about questions, you know, as a sales team, whenever we're positioning Thrive and talking about features and going through, we always think of questions being, like I said, that transactional, how do I do something? And again, seeing it like this is just, yeah, amazing.
Yeah, I think, it's very much like a forum. And I'm sure along the way, we'll get those sort of transactional questions. But the platforms, I suppose, being used in different ways to do that. So I noticed that one of our managers in retail has put some little videos and some little how-tos together for running different types of reports, which is amazing. So, you know, they're going on and they're doing that for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I guess as a follow-on from that, and we've touched on this, you know, user-generated content has been amazing. And I think one of the key points that you made to me the other week or last week was giving retail a voice. You know, 70% of your audience have never had the opportunity to communicate across the entirety of TED, and so allowing for that has been amazing. And I think that, again, the stats speak for themselves on that.
Yeah, absolutely. Like you say, 70% of the business is huge. And if they're in store, that's fine. They can access the store computer and the business tools. But if they're on the sales floor, or, you know, communicating with people if they're on furlough, you know, they weren't able to access any of this. So it just shows, like, you can see the numbers on there, 57% has been huge. And we didn't really know what to expect with it, but on the screen you can see one of the examples of Regent Street store. So quite a lot of our Ted Baker stores went through a refresh as well while they were closed. And this is from our Regent Street team who've taken these photographs, and, you know, they've put it into this great image. So that's been a highlight. We've had teams posting about, you know, dressing up in the new collection. We've had teams posting from our head office in UBB because, in fact, I love this, but it was World Bee Day last week, and we've got 3 beehives on the rooftop of our head office.
Yep.
So all the teams at head office was posting like a picture of themselves with like the jars of honey from the old bees on the roof, and you can see the barge behind it. And that was a really nice piece of connection for everyone that's maybe not ventured back into head office yet.
Yeah, and I guess that connectivity is so important, isn't it? I think that's something that they, you know, even again, we're not going to talk about the last 12 months, but especially the last 12 months, that connectivity has been so difficult to manage and implement.
Absolutely. And you know, there's that form of honesty as well. You know, we have Wellbeing Wednesday, and every week our Chief People Officer posts a little wellbeing article for Wellness Wednesday. This one was around authenticity. But it's a personal story. It's a story that he takes the time to write every Wednesday and post it out to the team. It's quite often a story about his life or something that happened to him. So to be able to connect in this way, and for him to see as well how the teams are engaging, through how many views and how many comments is just been fantastic. So the engagement from user generated content has been definitely from every level in the business and also around the globe as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it must also be so encouraging for your staff and the guys at TED to see the likes of Peter posting this type of content. There's no barriers to who can post or what you can post, or and again, like I say, the enabling that trickle down from your C-suite to encourage that and embrace that is incredible as well.
Absolutely. And to say, Peter popped into one of the time for tea and a natter, and I'm gutted because I had another meeting that day, but I'd love to have gone on and spent half an hour just chatting. But it's having these authentic conversations, that's really embedding that culture. And this tool has just been invaluable to be able to for us to be able to do it and to share it in this way.
Yeah, absolutely. I've just noticed there are a couple of questions that around user generated content that's probably worth us touching on. So there is one here. It says, do you find the need to spend much time moderating user generated content?
No, not at all. Absolutely no time. I think it's something a bit different. And when we opened the conversations, I remember distinctly the conversation with the head of talent and development saying, okay, well, maybe what could go wrong with this? Or, giving people the permissions to be able to post files or links or, anything they want to post. And we didn't know until it all launched. There's actually been no moderation, monitoring it at all. And within time, that content is only getting better because people are, being a bit more creative. Maybe they're posting more videos instead of just an image, and that's something that's really developing on the platform. So we're seeing quite a lot of creative people, being able to do some great stuff on here. So
yeah, for sure,
and no issues.
No, absolutely. And I guess it's also worth just mentioning from a functional perspective that it is possible within Thrive to restrict, as you mentioned, the types of content that people can upload. You can also restrict who they can share that content with based on the audience permissions. And then, as you can see here, you do have the ability to flag content if necessary. And it's a question that comes up quite often, I would say, in when we're having conversations with clients. But generally speaking, I think, well, in the 2 or 3 years that we've been doing this, we haven't seen any sort of case really of any significantly inappropriate content. Occasionally you might get content that's out of date or incorrect, but if anything, that's an opportunity to use it as an opportunity to identify gaps within the organization, right? If you know somebody's performing something incorrectly, it allows you to address it. It allows you to contact them, speak to them, and implement some training as they need to overcome that shortcoming or gap. And also, I guess the other point is that nothing's anonymized within the platform, so everybody's name is associated with the content that they're posting anyway. In the same way that they wouldn't send an email out to everybody in the organization with some profanity in, they probably wouldn't do it within the platform either.
Absolutely, and you've got to be able to trust your teams as well. It's that culture and that value piece. But definitely, like on the new homepage, it's so flexible for us as a team, where we show user content, where we don't show user content. But it's also been valuable for us in terms of languages as well. So we have Thrive champions. So we're a small talent and development team, but we've got someone in each territory that looks after the content for their territory as well. So it means that they can post in local language, and that, you know, we'll be able to share that as well. But if this was just, you know, little old me and the rest of Ted's Thrive team, you wouldn't be getting that much, because there's only, you know, there's only a few of us, and I think there's only one of us that speaks another language. So, you know, for us to be able to use the platform to really be inclusive, then you've got to allow people to have that voice, and that's it, and give them a bit of ownership as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And that actually answers a question from earlier, when we were talking about the implementation, or the selection was around how do you accommodate different languages, so from a global perspective. But I guess that's where the TED champions come in.
Yeah, I mean, we have get abstract content on here that you can select in local languages. You know, there's the translation on Thrive as well, which I know there's some more developments coming in very soon. But in terms of the videos, we have people out in territory that support with how-to videos. And also what we're developing at the moment is they're going to have their own component on the homepage that's specifically for their territory, and they will be posting on there themselves. So there's definite way around it. You just have to, yeah, get the right team in place.
Yeah, for sure. I'm conscious of time, so I'm going to jump back. The only thing that I did want to talk about from a user-generated content perspective, and I'm going to try and find this very quickly, because I got this notification Monday morning of what I think is possibly the greatest bit of user-generated content ever posted, ever. So for the guys that watched or watching this webinar, that watched Eurovision at the weekend, there's a celebrity at TED, isn't there, Debbie?
It absolutely is. Yeah, we've got a lot of talented people at TED, but our global retail operations manager, who is obviously well known in TED globally, was actually Chris from Gemini, and was in Eurovision in 2003. So after Eurovision at the weekend, Monday morning, you know, everyone's still a bit tired, and I thought, oh, what better to post the top of the pops video of Gemini 2003. And we put this out globally, and we sent an email to everybody. We notified everybody in the business as well. And the feedback we got from this was amazing.
Yeah, I can imagine. Yeah, it's brilliant. I saw it and just, yeah, burst out laughing. I think it's fabulous.
Yeah,
awesome.
It's definitely loved by the team.
Great stuff. Well, I guess it's time to kind of talk a little bit about what has all that meant. So, you know, since launching Thrive, what has that enabled? What stats have you got out of that? Where are you now, essentially, as the slide suggests?
I'm absolutely loving the stats, because we didn't have anything like this before. I would have had to, you know, use an Excel and a pen and paper, but we've got 77%, it will be more now, that have logged on. Bearing in mind, saying a lot of the territories were closed and actually still closed. I think that's a great number of people that are actually using the platform. 82,000 views on content. We've had nearly 2,000 shares, 22,000 likes. You know, I just think it's a phenomenal amount of engagement across the business, and great for us to see, you know, how that translates as well.
Yeah, absolutely. And then I'll let you talk through this, but I actually did a little bit of research about some of these engagement scores, about where these compare. So I'll give you, I don't know whether this has been shared with you by the CSM team, but I can share some insights into that. But yeah, it'd be good for you to just talk a little bit about some of the key activity that you've seen on the platform as well.
Yeah, I mean, one of the things that has changed is in the engagement scores, UK retail are actually now number 3, so they've just beaten the commercial and business departments. I'm sure there's going to be some hot competition on the platform this week. Netherlands and Belgium, huge engagement score. We have a meeting with the Thrive champions every month, and we, ask for honest feedback, and we have conversations about what's working, what's not. They're absolutely loving it. They're loving the platform, and they're just managing that time. They're doing it really well. The How to Thrive pathways obviously have been really popular. We've put videos out of the new collections as well, which has been amazing. Conversation with Rachel, our CEO, and Peter, our people officer as well. So yeah, there's been some really, really key activity, but definitely a bit of hot competition from some of the departments and some of the territories as well. So it's just nice that they're able to have that as well, because we didn't have anything before that would really get that engagement and that fire going.
Yeah, for sure. And I will say they clearly are a competitive bunch, because I think the number that we work to is, I think it's between 12 and 20 as an engagement score is considered very good. So this just goes to show just how competitive these guys are.
Absolutely. It's been across the board as well. There's different needs from either different territories, or whether it's different functions within the business. But yeah, they were Netherlands and Belgium, should I say, were really excited. And then a Thrive champion in Germany was like, "You're not staying there, like, I'm coming after you." And then today I had an email from our Thrive champion in Spain and Portugal, who's given me a list of this month's activity and pathways she's put in. So she's got her own whole strategy in place, because she's amazing, like wanting to get on the top spot as well.
Great stuff. And so I guess the key tagline about this webinar was, the do's and don'ts of rolling out a piece of global HR technology. So it'd be great just to, I guess, for your key takeaways, what are those do's?
Absolutely, get the right team in place. We mentioned before, it really is a business tool. So it's great to get people on board straight away and get those relationships built. So definitely internal comms has been crucial to this. Our IT team, our data team, creative team, and obviously Ted's Thrive team as well, which is the core project team. But that has been so important. Plan and get everything ready and everything in place, so you can really enjoy the engagement in those first few weeks. Promote, talk to everybody at any opportunity you get. We held workshops for senior people in the business, so they knew exactly what was coming. But we also got those key people out in territory and departments. So when we did launch, they were really being our voice as well and getting that engagement going. Create a start teasing. You see the little stars on the platform. So we were putting out posts with little stars on, and just creating that little bit of a tease of something big's coming. Start with a bang. So we definitely started with a bang with launching our global company values, and make it clear, make it crystal clear. And that's why we launched the How to Thrive pathway in the languages, so everyone could basically get on there and get going as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I guess that's a really good point. You only get one launch, don't you? So you need to make sure that you get everything right, everything aligned, but like you say, make people understand what it's there for.
Absolutely. And that launch is defining really the future of that tool as well. You can't go back and do it again. So but there was definitely, these were the key takeaways.
Awesome. And the don'ts?
Don't forget your audience. So don't forget that there's different needs around the business, and you've got to try and speak to every audience and be part of that team, Ted. Don't be afraid of feedback. So we are constantly asking for feedback on the platform, questions, and different groups as well, because you really want to make those improvements. don't stop talking about Thrive, which everybody I work with will tell you that's all I talk about. Don't stop asking questions, and I'm sure you know, Tom, and certainly Tracy and Georgia at Thrive, I constantly ask questions. Don't forget to be adaptable. There's things that we thought how we were going to do things on the platform before we launched. It's completely changed now, because you've got to try, and adapt along the way. And don't forget any of the do's from the last slide. That's
yeah, for sure. No, absolutely. I think that flexibility is really important as well. I think we can, the best laid plans and all that, you can have an idea of what that might look like, but if you're going to stick to that rigidly, then you're destined for failure. I think you're absolutely right. Iteratively changing stuff and obtaining feedback and changing ideas as you go, as you learn, is massively important.
Absolutely. And we've got pretty much the rest of the year planned out in terms of campaigns. But absolutely, being adaptable, that could change. But the functionality on the platform is so easy to change that if something else comes in that takes priority, it's absolutely fine. We can be a bit adaptable with it.
Awesome. And a fantastic little segue into what's next. So what's next for Thrive at TED?
We've got a huge amount coming at Thrive at TED. There's lots of developments coming on the platform, which have been really great to work with the Thrive team on some of those changes in functionality. That's really exciting, as I said, about language functionality. And so we've got our global inductions for retail and head office. So head office one is due to land very, very soon. And we're currently working on digitizing these, which will be great to see. And we fully intend to keep that same personality and DNA as the originals. A leadership development program. We're currently working on a reverse mentor program throughout the business, redeveloping some of our skills workshops. So now, instead of them being half a day in the classroom, we can really launch that out to the business, but we can do it where it's not just us. We're putting it out to the business. So we've got key people in different departments running some of those skills workshops because they're the subject matter experts, and essential learning catalogue. So we didn't launch with that, but it's got to be done. So we're in the process of putting that together, and actually the off-the-shelf content on Thrive's been really important for us with that as well. So that's something that's coming soon.
Awesome. And there's a question that's just come in as who is your reverse mentoring program aimed at?
It's across the business, so we're going to start with a small pool of people. So we've got one of the TED Thrive team development partner that looks after head office is currently in the process of looking into that, but it will be across the business at all different levels.
Amazing. That was, I'm just looking at the time. We have just got to the hour, and which is great, but I know that there's a wealth of questions, so I'm going to try and go through these for the benefit that everyone that's still with us. So I know we've answered a few of them. I just wanted to have a look here around how much. So there's a question from Kay that says, how much time has it taken to get the platform up and running? How many people were working on it? I'm the only person in L&D for the entire business.
So I look after Thrive. We're a team of, we've got 3 partners in the UK and 1 in North America. But Thrive is my focus. It's absolutely doable, even if you're on your own, and you just need to get the right team in place. As I said, it's a business tool. So, who are you going to hook in early on, should I say, that can really support you? It doesn't have to be just you. And we started our implementation in January, and we were launched by the 7th of April, full singing and dancing. So it wasn't long at all, really.
Yeah, absolutely. And Kay, just to follow up on that, we've worked with a few clients now that are a team of one. So it's absolutely something that is, as Debbie says, is doable. And again, happy to have a conversation about that if you're interested as well. Just having a look through some of these other questions. Sorry, I'm just scrolling through quickly. Was there any issues with digital literacy with any of your workforce, and how did Thrive help with that?
I mean, obviously, there's different levels throughout the business in digital literacy, but actually getting onto Thrive is so intuitive. We created the How to Thrive pathways just to get everybody on and going straight away. We could have done it without. Really, it's that intuitive.
Yep.
We spend a little bit of time on the platform, but also on the platform we've really got a lot of resources to support that literacy as well, which are super easy to find and easy to work through.
Yeah, for sure. And I guess just on that, the intuitive nature of Thrive, from a design perspective, the consumer grade user experience is a phrase that we throw about a lot, but that's absolutely the standard that we set for ourselves when building the platform. So from an intuitiveness, that does come across. Again, if you'd like a full demo of the platform, reach out and we'd be happy to show you. And then there was a question here. So how did you recruit your champions? Are they stakeholders or for the subjects, or are they just interested in the subject matter?
We sent an email out early on to the leads of departments and stipulated what kind of person we wanted to come and be a Thrive champion. So someone that was interested in engagement and interested in communications, and it was a collaboration, and they put someone forward from one from each territory and one from each department in the business as well. And it's worked out so well, really well.
Excellent. I'm conscious of time. I'm just going to try and see if there was any more. So it says, so another question from Kay here. So with the level of engagement you've got from the retail arm of the business, how do you connect with the supply chain and distribution teams? So I guess is just looking at how do you have a strategy for engaging with all of the different teams within your organization?
Yeah, I mean, there's clearly different needs or different wants, but there's certainly we've got a lot of personal development resources on the platform, which we can see a huge engagement from our different departments within the business. But we're working with different providers as well, looking at subject matter experts to come in and do workshops. We're managing those through events on Thrive as well. So that's something that's really been very popular with different departments around business. So yeah, it's just managing that. We can certainly, I think, fit both or meet both needs with the platform.
For sure.
It's just knowing what they are.
Yep, absolutely. And then the final question. So a question from James here, and I guess this links back to the launch piece of how you kind of changed mindsets or introduced the Thrive as a platform. But James asked, did you find that Thrive supplanted existing systems, or are there now different channels for similar things? If the former, how did you direct people to Thrive on launch? And if the latter, how do you make it clear where to go? I guess it's fair to say Thrive at TED is, I know you've got kind of 3 platforms or 3 tools that you've rolled out. So yeah, it'd be good to understand how you do that.
Yeah, I mean, we had different places for people to go before we launched Thrive, so different business tools, but none of them were doing everything that we wanted it to do. So it's not like as soon as Thrive launched, we shut those down. But obviously everything is directed through Thrive, and the way we've been able to do that is really the relationships that we built with those departments, and with the internal comms team as well. So everything's getting posted on Thrive. So I think people can be sure that actually if I go to Thrive, then, you know, that's where I'm going to get the information. But yeah, there's a strategy in place to slowly reduce some of the other platforms that we've got or we were using.
Awesome. I think that's all of the questions. There may be some in the chat that I've missed or can't find, and I don't want you to see me squinting at a screen trying to find anything. So there's one from Catriona. Somebody just helpfully pointed out. Let me see if I can find that. I said I wasn't going to be squinting at the screen, but it appears I am.
Do you want me to help you out there, Tom?
Yes, please, Cass. Yeah.
So someone's just asked Debbie about gamification. So do you use the point system, and how does that play out for users?
Yes, we use the point system. Again, quite a competitive bunch. We've had quite a few, like we've had some intrigue on the platform, people posting questions saying, how do I get this badge? Or how do I get this badge? And they're asking me for hints and tips or little sneaky bits of information so they can beat the rest of their team. So we definitely are using it. It's not really what we want to get the engagement going. So it's not just about points, but it's a really nice little topic of conversation for people, and just to get that bit of team healthy competition going, shall we say.
Awesome. And then just one last question, let's squeeze it in, from Richard, asking about if you can pull content into Thrive. So I think, yeah, he's talking about kind of things like, you know, plugins or RSS feeds. So how we use, you know, Get Abstract and Pink, that kind of thing.
I'll take that then.
Are you
taking that, Tom?
I can do, yeah. So in terms of, I guess, the content aggregation piece is massively important to any sort of platform, but especially one like Thrive, which is all about delivering a personalized user experience. So it's about making sure you have enough content to fulfill, I guess, the wants and needs of your learners. So the tools that we have for that are, we have integrations with Get Abstract, with Pink. So Pink is and this is a bit of a mouthful every time I say it, it's an auto content curation tool. Essentially what it does is it will scrape the web for content and automatically populate it within the platform. And I think this is one of the great ways in enabling small L&D teams to really focus on the other great stuff that they do, is that, you know, you're setting the platform up for success by automating that content population into the platform. So yes, absolutely. Again, I see that question is from Richard. If you want to take a look at that in more detail, happy to arrange a session with you to talk you through that as well. And then the final question was, will this session be recorded and shared? Yes, absolutely. That'll all be sent out automatically to you. But I think, Cassie, I think that draws us to a close.
That does, and that has been such a great session. So thank you so much, Tom and Debbie. We've held numbers and we're kind of 8 minutes over, but there was so much to cover and so much to talk about. So thank you so much for sharing your journey, and it was hopefully really insightful for everyone who's joined today.
Yeah, thank you, Debbie. It was it's great, really good.
Just a little note. Sorry, Debbie, go on.
Thanks for the invitation.
Anytime, we'd love to have you. And just for a little note before final people leave, our next live session in June will actually be at Learning Tech, the Digital Experience. So we'll be speaking there on the 21st of June at 1 p.m. And our session is going to be all about taking L&D as an L&D tool, taking an LMS from an L&D tool to a business tool. So covering some of the themes that Debbie's actually spoken about today, and sharing ways that you can help your business adapt to changing times. So it's actually a really nice kind of segue on from what Debbie has been speaking about today. So yeah, that's everything. So thank you so much again, and hopefully we'll see you all soon.
Thank you.
Thanks everyone.
Bye. Bye,
Bye.
everyone.